In a death battle with a level playing field, two challengers from the world of A Song of Ice and Fire go head-to-head in a battle of brawn, brain, and leadership. The face-off today is between two vain and cruel young princes, the ill-born Joffrey Baratheon versus the beggar king, Viserys Targaryen. Let's meet our combatants. Joffrey Baratheon is the first of three children born from the incestuous affair of Queen Cersei Lannister and her brother Jaime. However, as the entire realm was kept ignorant of the children's true father, Joffrey and his siblings were presumed to be the legitimate heirs of King Robert Baratheon. It wasn't long before Joffrey, growing up as a prince in the Red Keep, became spoiled and unruly. His first example of impatience and cruelty being the time he cut open a pregnant cat to retrieve the unborn kittens, not wanting to wait until the cat was ready to just give birth to them on its own. Between Robert's open disappointment and subsequent neglect, his mother whispering poisonous ideas of what it means to be a ruler to him, and his seemingly already predisposed sadistic nature, it's little surprise that when Joffrey took the throne, he became notorious after only a 2-year reign for his tyranny. Being king meant no boundaries, and no boundaries meant he was able to torture anyone he could get his hands on for his own entertainment. Even his mother couldn't stop him from killing Ned Stark as a traitor for daring to speak against Joffrey's claim to the throne, kicking off a civil war with the North. Yeah, Joffrey might have ruled cruelly, but eventually his own death came about at his wedding feast, by his new bride's grandmother of all people. Joffrey's strength lies with the unbridled authority that seating the Iron Throne grants, paired with the money and status of his family. But on the flip side, Joffrey is reckless, cowardly, gullible, and overall just pretty senseless, with an entitlement streak that could put a Hilton heiress to shame. However, rightful king or not, Joffrey's crown means that he could very well be more than a match for his competition. Just like Joffrey, Viserys grew up in the Red Keep, but while Joffrey was at the age where he was cutting open cats, Viserys' life was being ripped away from him by Robert's rebellion. After his father, brother, niece, and nephew were killed, Viserys, along with his pregnant mother, were smuggled off to Braavos on a ship. However, tragedy struck again when his mother died during childbirth on the journey. A 300-year dynasty suddenly whittled down to an 8-year-old boy and his baby sister Daenerys. Viserys did whatever he could to ensure their survival, wandering the free cities to avoid assassins and begging for shelter from wealthy citizens. Eventually, even selling his mother's crown to pay for food. Viserys had eyes on restoring his family's place on the throne, but refused to accept the current state of the Targaryen line. Growing angry when people didn't show the proper courtesies befitting of a king, and resenting his younger sister for killing their mother on her way into the world. Running on blind ambition for so long left him bitter, deluded, and full of rage. Years later, a Pentoshi man named Illyrio Mopatis took him in, and helped Viserys arrange for the Dothraki to help him retake the Iron Throne. The catch being that his younger sister Daenerys would have to marry their leader, Khal Drogo. However, after months of growing impatient with Drogo for not upholding his end of the bargain, Viserys threatened the Khal's unborn child, and, in turn, himself was killed. Viserys' strengths lie with his unwillingness to give up if he feels he's in the right, blind to any odds that might be stacked against him. Even if his name doesn't hold the power it used to, Viserys will do anything he can to find a way of getting what he wants, making any and all sacrifices along the way. However, being impatient and entitled is a recipe for making foolish decisions, and while Viserys can talk big and even believe it himself, he has very little metal to actually back him up. So, will Joffrey be able to best Viserys like Robert did Rhaegar, or is Joffrey about to wake the dragon? This is Inbred Prince versus Inbred Prince. Wait, no, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Let's get started. First up is physical prowess. In a one-on-one fight, who would win with no outside help? Joffrey, growing up in the Red Keep, would most likely have received his sword training from the castle's master-at-arms, Aeron Santagar. And while we don't know a great deal about Sir Aeron, I think we can all agree that these lessons were pretty ineffective. Despite having the best weapons money can buy, including his Valyrian blade Widow's Wail and his precious pet crossbow, lacks both his adoptive father's ferocity and his biological father's natural talent in combat. He also refuses to take on anyone he knows he can't beat, only rising to a challenge when he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that he can win. So, since what we have seen of Joffrey's skills is pretty far up Fail Creek, I'm gonna give him a 2 in Strength, a 3 in Dexterity, and a 2 in Constitution. Viserys never reached an age where he was old enough to train with the Red Keep's Master-at-Arms before being exiled. But something that can't be trained in a castle, Viserys ended up getting a lot of in Essos. Viserys might not have a Valyrian steel blade, or even the proper training with arms, but traveling from city to city breeds physical tenacity. Viserys knows what it's like to sleep in the streets, or go hungry for a couple of days. It might not be much, but it's a concept of survival that is totally foreign to someone like Joffrey. So, Viserys beats Joffrey 9-7. Joffrey does have the advantage of a ranged weapon, but here's the thing. Crossbows, unlike a bow and arrow, take a decent amount of time to reload. And that's precious seconds you just don't have when someone with a hell of a chip on their shoulder is charging at you with a sword. Joffrey wouldn't be able to get off more than one shot before Viserys was able to close the gap. And if the bolt misses Viserys entirely, or only makes an indirect hit to, say, his shoulder or arm, Viserys is going to keep coming. All the Valyrian steel in the world isn't going to help Joffrey against a mentally unstable Targaryen who is 8 years his senior. Don't get me wrong, if you wanted to see a battle of beautiful swordsmanship, you aren't gonna find it here. But sometimes fights come down to conviction, and, well, fool's courage beats the hell out of fool's cowardice. Old Melty Face takes this one. Next is mental prowess. Who would be the best at outwitting and outplaying the other? Here's the thing, Joffrey's cruelty is rivaled only by his stupidity. Almost never being told no by anyone, Joffrey does what he wants when he wants. Consequences be damned. And again, despite having the advantage in life that most couldn't even dream of, like highborn education, Joffrey seems to have no wisdom or knowledge when it comes to, well, anything, really. He's also extremely quick to anger, and is extremely oblivious when someone is playing him. Viserys isn't much better. This guy got killed directly because of a bad decision he made. I'll give him a 3 in intelligence, but I have to give him an equally bad score to Joffrey in intuition. But I do have to give him an 8 in will, since this is pretty much all he's been running on his entire life. In all honesty, it would be incredibly hard to get either of these two to sit down and do anything intellectual. They just don't have the patience or self-discipline. Compared to some of the other characters we've had on here, neither of these guys have amazing scores in this category. But I stand by the fact that Viserys, being older and actually having to make hard decisions on his own, would take this one. Last up is political prowess, a measure of who has the status, persuasion, or just cold hard resources to get other people on their side. Joffrey has 2 things going for him in life. 1, he sits the Iron Throne, and 2, he's got all the money in the realm at his disposal, giving him perfect tens in wealth and status. Despite being the perfect gentleman to Sansa and Margaery for, well, a portion of their relationships, pretty soon he turns into a complete dickhead who nobody really liked by the time his death rolled around, meaning that he has a measly 1 in charisma. Viserys himself has little to no status at all, as his nickname the Beggar Prince suggests. But the name Targaryen does carry weight to some people in the world, so by extension he has 3 points here. His wealth here is going to be a 2 because he only has money given to him by benefactors. In charisma he earns a 3 because despite being utterly unlikable, he did manage to flatter his way into the homes of some very rich patrons during his and his sister's time on the run from Robert's assassins. And so, while Joffrey has the cash, the right chair, and the right family backing him, Viserys is able to edge out Joffrey both physically and mentally for a 2-1 victory. He may not be the greatest of his family's name, but he was the better man in this episode. Thanks so much for watching, and make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a comment below on which 2 combatants you'd like to see go head-to-head next time on Westeros Brawls.